Hey there, guys and gals. Picture this. You were a normal high school student living a peaceful life with your dad, but one day your house catches fire and you become a poor. However, a group of college girls appears and takes care of you. But here's the twist. You now live among gorgeous and perverted girls, so things are about to get hilariously chaotic. Brace yourself for the captivating ride that is MO of the God ESS dormitory, megami-ryou no ryoubo-kun. Let's jump right in and loosen this comedic knot together. The anime begins by introducing our protagonist, Koshi Nagumo, a quiet 12-year-old boy. He tells us that one day his house caught fire, and instead of taking responsibility, his father abandoned him, leaving him without money, food, or a home. When he had given up hope, he encounters a college girl named Minoru. Seeing that our young man is not doing well, Minoru takes him to an exclusively female dormitory called the Goddess's Dormitory. Once there, Minoru gives him food and offers him, in a slightly perverted manner, to take a bath. Nervously, Koshi runs away and enters the bathroom without checking, only to be surprised by a group of girls already occupying it. And to make matters worse, as he tries to escape to avoid further embarrassment, he accidentally collides with Atina Soto, burying his face between her thighs. Wah! We learn that she has some sort of trauma with men, and upon seeing Koshi, she faints while her nose bleeds. After the misunderstanding, we get to know the rest of the girls that present themselves. Minoru Wachi, a fourth-year college student, is the temporary mother or caretaker of the dormitory. Kiria Sensho, a second year, the third year, who goes by her online name of Free. Serene Hazumi, who doesn't even remember how much time she has spent at the university. Finally, there's Atina, whom we already met earlier, but they clarify that her trauma was caused by bad experiences with men. The girls begin to interrogate Koshi to get to know him better, leaving him no choice but to tell them everything that has happened to him, including the fact that his house burned down and he is now an orphan. The girls are moved by his story and offer him a deal. He can live there for free on the condition that he becomes the new mother of the dormitory, meaning he has to take care of all the chores like cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, and many other things, essentially becoming a housewife, but with a stable salary. Everyone seems to reach an agreement except for Atina, who's not happy about letting a man into an exclusively female space. She feels uncomfortable with the dormitory's new decision and decides to gather her things and leave. Koshi feels guilty, thinking it's all his fault, and believes that if he accepts the job, he will make her homeless. He goes out in pursuit and manages to tell Atina that he rejected Minoru's offer, which initially brings relief to the girl. However, after realizing that she left him homeless and living on the streets again, Atina realizes she is being selfish. She acknowledges that Koshi gave up his comfort so that she could return to her normal life. Atina reflects on this and goes in search of Koshi, who was sleeping in the park. Determined to overcome her fear of men, she carries him on her back to the dormitory. However, when Koshi wakes up and starts moving, he accidentally grabs her breasts, which makes Atina extremely uncomfortable, causing her nose to bleed, and she faints. Koshi ends up bringing her to the dormitory, but what's heartwarming is that she realizes that maybe the protagonist is different from the other men she has known. Therefore, she accepts that he stays in the residence, as it may help her gradually overcome her fear of relationships with boys. After the credits, we begin on a brand new day. Koshi begins his work in the dormitory. However, people passing by find it strange that a man is working in a girls-only place, especially considering that the dormitory has a somewhat dubious reputation due to rumors of noise and strange happenings. But this doesn't bother Koshi because he believes more in the goodwill of the waifus who took him in. After finishing the outside tasks, he moves on to the interior and realizes that the entire residence is a mess. He starts with Minoru's room, which for some reason has an alarm on the door. Minoru is a bit of a crazy scientist and walks around almost naked, which makes Koshi uncomfortable and unable to concentrate on his work. He takes a moment to rest on the floor until a hand emerges from another room. It happens to be Frey, the cosplay addict, who dresses Koshi as a furry and asks him to take her measurements for her next costume. Everything seemed fine, but they have a little accident and Koshi ends up feeling the girl's attributes with his face. As he tries to get up, Minoru interrupts the situation to inform them that one of her crazy experiments went out of control and turned into a toxic gas that could kill them all if they don't evacuate the dormitory. Frey mentions that Minoru is known as the walking toxic fumes generator, and she, in turn, mentions Frey is known as the walking dress-up demon. Koshi realizes that the rumors about the dormitory were true and scolds the girls for engaging in such dangerous activities that could jeopardize their lives, raising his voice unintentionally due to the embarrassment. Feeling embarrassed himself, he apologizes and runs off to a busy street where he doesn't realize that everyone is taking photos of him in his furry cosplay. He eventually returns to the dormitory, remembering that his waifus were almost naked and might be feeling cold. He brings them a blanket, which he obtained through begging, so they can cover themselves, and apologizes again for everything that happened earlier. The girls show him that they weren't angry by hugging him. They are actually happy that Koshi cared about their well-being. The situation seems resolved until Atina arrives and sees the two girls sharing an intimate hug with our protagonist, causing her to faint again. Inside the dormitory, she scolds all of them for wearing such clothing, reminding them that they now live with a man. She also reprimands Minoru and Free for their behavior with Koshi. However, they pay little attention to her and end up arguing while Atina tries to cover her booty. Later that day, we observe Minoru plotting a secret love formula, free-selecting a new outfit for Koski, and Athena swearing to uphold the moral values of the dorm. In the meantime, while Koshi was peacefully sleeping, Kariya breaks through the ceiling and falls on top of him. At first, they don't understand what's happening, but she explains that she was reading a romance manga and got so excited about a scene that she kicked the floor. She's very strong because of her martial arts practice. Since Kariya's room is destroyed, she asks Koshi if she can sleep there. Initially, he's not convinced, but she tells him not to worry since he reminds her of her brothers, implying that she won't do anything harmful to him. However, we realize that her relationship with her brothers wasn't exactly gentle. Poor little guy gets all crushed. Koshi tells her that her energetic nature won't let them sleep together, and he's also concerned because he's a man and she's so beautiful that he's not sure if he can fully control his hormones. To calm things down a bit, Koshi leaves the room, but Kiriya keeps thinking about his words as they were similar to the scene in the manga she was reading. This sparks her romantic interest in him. While Koshi was trying to get some sleep, Serene appears, noticing the mess created by the redhead. She offers to repair the floor using lunar technology if he agrees to become her servant. Since Koshi was more asleep than awake, he doesn't fully grasp the situation, and Serene kisses him to officially seal the agreement. The next morning, Kariya thanks him for fixing her room, but he doesn't quite understand what happened, as he can't remember if the kiss was real or just a dream. Nonetheless, Koshi continues with his duties in the residence. Serene arrives and tastes his food, reminding him that he is now her servant. Initially, he becomes a bit nervous because he recalls what happened the previous night, but he tries to calm himself while having lunch with the other girls. Athena is surprised by how quickly everyone has become close to Koshi, realizing that she still has a lot to overcome since she can't even touch him without fainting. Koshi mentions that he's going out to buy more food, giving Athena an opportunity to spend some alone time with him. She wears a mask to prevent a nosebleed, but it doesn't work well because she becomes quite nervous when she sees a couple of guys harassing her. Koshi notices this and to save her invents a lie telling them that he is her older sister. This somehow makes Athena feel safer with him. From wanting nothing to do with him, she goes as far as inviting him to a cyber cafe where they can be alone and he can call her big sis again. It seems that she enjoyed being called that and felt special. Furthermore, she can now touch him without fainting or getting nervous, indicating that progress is being made. However, during a tender moment, her skirt drops and some comic movements happen. Koshi ends up with her on top of his face. Anyway, back at the dormitory, the other girls start becoming a bit hot-headed around Koshi, and Athena scolds them for behaving irresponsibly in front of a man, emphasizing that she will take care of him as his older sister. However, her words don't have much effect as the waifus become intrigued by the idea of also becoming his sisters. The next morning, the protagonist is doing laundry and a couple of misunderstandings occur. Also, now Athena has a being called sister. But well, the really important thing happens when everyone in the residence decides to have a competition to determine who will become the protagonist's new Onizen, elder sister figure. However, this turns out to be the complete opposite as none of them are good with Koshi. Frey dresses him up as a maid, Kiriya almost knocks him out with a key to demonstrate her supposed affection, Minoru uses him as a laboratory rat for her experiments, and Serene wants him for sleep purposes. The protagonist faints, so Athena tries to treat him kindly, but a slight accident happens with her brain, and she ends up covering him in blood. Putting aside the problems, later Minoru gives Koshi the good news that he will be able to return to school in a few days since he had to leave due to what happened with his house and father. Finally, it's time to go back to school, but there's a somewhat mysterious girl observing him from afar, and the protagonist is peacefully at his locker. She kicks him in the face, leaving him almost unconscious. Here we meet Tsutie Kuroya, the protagonist's childhood friend, who asks him why he disappeared all this time. She mentions that she has been quite worried about him since he left school without telling her or saying goodbye. She's also a bit tsundere because she has romantic feelings for Koshi, but finds it hard to admit them, so she tries to hide them behind her aggressiveness. She feels embarrassed about the kick she gave him because she actually just wanted to show him how concerned she was and greet him normally. Later that day, when classes are over, the protagonist goes to find her to try to talk calmly, but she continues with her aggressive attitude. Furthermore, when he takes her hand, it only makes her even angrier due to her issue with physical contact. Tsutie goes to the terrace to reflect on how she's been behaving towards the boys she likes, while he thinks that he made a mistake by touching her without cooling his hands first. In a kind of flashback, Tsutie tells us that she acts this way because since she was little, she developed a physical condition that causes discomfort when exposed to people's or environmental heat, to the point of losing consciousness. That's why she resorts to violence when someone gets too close to her to protect herself from anything. However, the protagonist didn't care about all this and became friends with Tsutie despite receiving a punch every time he approached her. He even started putting ice on his hands to touch her without the risk of her fainting. This gradually made Tsutie fall in love with him. Until now, she feels that way about Koshi, but her tsundere personality prevents her from expressing her feelings clearly to him. Koshi finds her and puts ice on his hands to be able to touch her without any risk. They talk calmly, resolving the previous misunderstandings and reminiscing about their beautiful moments from when they were children. As it was sunny outside, the protagonist takes her to the infirmary to rest for a while. However, they accidentally stumble and end up falling on top of each other, finally having their romantic moment. Koshi wonders wanted to get up to avoid giving her more warmth than necessary, but Sudi stops him for a moment because she doesn't want to move away from him. However, she reconsiders and kicks him away again. Back at home, the protagonist tells her everything that has happened to him in these weeks, such as the fire at his house and now living with some university girls because he's penniless. She becomes jealous when she hears that it's an all-girls dormitory, so she decides to accompany him to make sure nothing inappropriate happens. When they arrive at the place, we see that Mineru's experiments didn't turn out so well again, leaving us with an awkward scene of Sutio with the rest of the girls. Inside the house, she realizes that indeed her guy lives in a dormitory with only women, which triggers her toxic jealousy. She checks all the rooms to find something unusual. She starts with the protagonist, who has nothing more than his fumen. Then she goes to Mineru's room, but it has toxic gas, so she can't see much. When she reaches Free's room, she almost becomes a test subject. Athena rescues her and takes her to her own room, where there is nothing strange. However, this makes Sudia jealous because apparently the protagonist liked Athena's room. Finally, there's Korea's room, which also seems normal until she almost breaks the wall by reading a manga. To calm the situation, Serene appears and soothes Sutio with an expired cookie. After this whole disaster, she comes to the conclusion that this place is unsafe for Koshi because the waifus are a bit too crazy. Since it's already late, Minoru offers her to stay overnight with them, and surprisingly, she accepts. In Athena's room, Sutia is jealous of what the protagonist said in the morning, so she asks Athena about the type of relationship she has with him. At first, Athena doesn't know how to respond, but their conversation is interrupted by screams coming from the bathroom. When they go to see what's happening, they find the protagonist, who accidentally fell on top of Korea. Obviously, both of them misunderstand the situation and scold the two of them for engaging in such inappropriate behavior. Days later, Athena and Kiria are still thinking about what happened that night to the point of being so distracted that they forget their lunch for university. Kaoshi notices this and is concerned about their emotional state. Free suggests a solution of him so he can deliver their food without being discovered by the university guards. The plan seems to be going well until a couple of girls discover our ladyboy and start him all over the place. Luckily, in one of the hallways, he runs into Athena, who lies to the girls, saying that he is her younger sister. Once the problem is solved, Kaoshi delivers their lunch, and they also go to Korea to give her hers. However, a small accident occurs, leaving both girls soaked. To avoid creating more scandal, the three of them enter the changing room to get new clothes, resulting in some rather suggestive scenes between Athena and our protagonist, as well as a couple of misunderstandings. Back at home, the idea of going on vacation together arises in order to calm things down and improve the relationship between Kaoshi and the girls. They even decide to take Sutia along so that everyone can get along. Serene disagrees with this plan because for some strange reason she cannot go beyond the university's surroundings. According to her peculiar belief in the stars, she won't be able to receive enough energy at the beach. Kaoshi worries but learns that there is a solution. They just need to give her an object that reminds her of the moon, and then she can go wherever she wants. Therefore, the protagonist must get to work before the summer vacation arrives. The next morning, while on his way to school, he encounters Sutia, who is suffering from the heat. However, our prepared hero puts ice packs on her face. Once in the classroom, he takes the opportunity to invite her to the beach and enjoy their time together. She agrees as she wants to keep an eye on the crazy university girls and make sure nothing strange happens with Kaoshi. At the same time, in the dormitory, the girls are searching for the lunar artifact that Serene needs. Free tries with his Sailor Moon cosplay, and after many references, they realize that nothing works because her life remains a complete mystery. In the end, Athena finds something more normal, a moonprint umbrella, which surprisingly pleases Serene, and she finally agrees to go on the beach trip. Summer vacation arrives, and the plan was to go to a nice inn with a view of the sea. However, Athena made a mistake with the reservation, and they end up arriving at a sketchy house in the middle of the mountains. The girls don't care much about the place because what they really want is to have fun together. They spend some time in a beautiful waterfall, then visit a supposedly haunted shrine with a creepy tomb, where they discover that despite Korea's strength, she also has a fearful side and can't stand anything paranormal. This leads to a misunderstanding that triggers Sudia's Sundeer jealousy. Later, everyone enjoys a bath in the hot springs of the inn, providing some quite views of the waifus. Later on, they realize that there's only one room for all 7 of them, so they have to sleep together. However, this proves to be a great temptation for the protagonist, who can't close his eyes without imagining strange things. Suddenly, Athena rushes out of the room, worrying Kaoshi, who tries to follow her, but instead runs into Minoru. They both decide to search for her together as things start to get paranormal in the house, and Minoru starts getting a bit excited, leading to a misunderstanding with the protagonist. Eventually, they separate, and luckily, Kaoshi manages to find Athena. However, in the hallway, they encounter a mysterious figure, which is actually Serene with her umbrella. Due to the dim light of the night, they mistake her for a ghost and run into a room to hide from this ghostly presence. Everything seems calm, but Athena is very close to the protagonist, which somehow makes him nervous. She takes his hand, and somehow they gather the courage to get even closer, giving us what seemed like a romantic scene of the two sharing a beautiful kiss until Minoru interrupts the moment. The next day, day, they leave the inn and decide to spend some time at the beach. However, Koshi can't fully concentrate because he keeps thinking about what happened last night with Athena. He can't take his eyes off her, which leads to him being labeled as a From a distance, Suki becomes a little jealous when she notices this because her guy only has eyes for another woman. Due to her distraction, Sutia has a small accident with some fish that almost drown her. The protagonist tries to save her. Since he doesn't know how to swim, Kiria takes action and ends up rescuing her. With the situation under control, Sukiya blushes upon realizing that Koshi was worried about her. Our guy goes to buy some cold drinks, but on the way, he encounters Athena, who is being harassed by a couple of guys. He reacts like a real man and defends her, but she ruins the situation by telling them that he is her younger brother. This affects the protagonist's feelings because he wants to get Athena's attention and not just be seen as the younger brother who has to defend her. Koshi takes her hand and leads her to a secluded place where Athena thanks him for earlier, making it clear that she feels very safe with him and sees him as part of her family. In short, she destroys the romantic feelings that the protagonist had developed for her. Later, Sutia and Athena have a conversation among women in the showers, but the most important focus is on Koshi, who ends up very confused by the end of the trip because he doesn't know what to feel for a girl who only sees him as a brother. Back home, the protagonist is somewhat distant from the rest of the girls due to everything that happened during the trip. However, Minoru and Frey notice this and come up with the strange idea of taking him a do cosplay to cheer him up. They take him to an exclusive place where they put on their costumes and start fighting. Frey takes the opportunity to ask him what's going on, and Koshi has no choice but to tell her about all the feelings he has developed for someone in the dormitory since they came back from vacation. This makes him feel unsure about talking to them because he is afraid that their relationship will change if he tries to confess his love. He makes it clear that this is why he has been distant, because he doesn't want to be hated by the others. Frey perfectly understands what he's going through and tells him that she experienced something similar in the past but realized too late that it's better to make a mistake than to wonder what could have happened or to hold back your feelings. Later, they both head back home and Koshi thanks her for her advice, telling her that he's not ready yet to make a decision because he needs to sort out his feelings and find out if what he wants is real or if it was just a fleeting desire. He surprises Free by saying that he doesn't want to be a helpless boy, but rather wants to be a support for everyone in the dormitory. Time passes, and they arrive at the university's cultural festival. Kashi and Sutia attend by invitation of the girls. At the entrance, they meet Frey, who proposes to be their guide for the whole day. She takes them to a somewhat strange forest where they come across Minoru, who is selling her experiments disguised as potions. However, a girl from the disciplinary committee finds them and interrupts, saying that this is illegal as they are in an unauthorized booth. Minoru runs away, accidentally dropping one of her potions into the protagonist's backpack. Ignoring the commotion, Frey continues the tour to an even stranger research room, which aims to capture and analyze Serene for her use of lunar energy. Kashi gets worried upon hearing this, so he tells the others that they need to find her before they do. However, as they leave the room, they encounter something even worse. Minoru's potions have spread throughout the university, forcing the girls to do perverted things. To make matters worse, Frey puts a wave on our protagonist, attracting the attention of the girls who capture and touch him as they please. Suki becomes jealous and asks them to stay away from her guide, but this turns out to be a terrible mistake because now they become interested in her, causing complete chaos in the university courtyard. Before things spiral out of control, Serene arrives and activates her magical lunar powers, causing a beam of light to fall from the sky, returning the girls to normal. This leaves the waifu without energy, and the only way to recover is by kissing the protagonist for any of her dormitory companions, who, unbeknownst to them, also made a secret pact with her, becoming her servants. Serene tries to kiss Kaoshi as she needs his energy to survive, but Free interrupts them as she arrives with Sutia, offering him a lollipop that, for some strange reason, reminds him of the shape of a galaxy. This instantly restores Serene's powers. Afterward, they head to Atina's maid cafe presentation, but they realize that she is struggling since she still finds it difficult to talk to unfamiliar men. Additionally, she encounters a couple of forward guys who invite her out, but she quickly rejects them and continues with her work. Since she was very nervous about what just happened, Frey and Sutia temporarily take over for her, visiting cute maid costumes and giving her the opportunity to explore the university with a protagonist. They enter a contest, where surprisingly, Kiria wins with her cosplay as a man. Kaoshi starts feeling hot in the crowded place, so he takes out a bottle from his backpack to refresh himself, unaware that he is drinking one of the potions that Minoru had accidentally dropped earlier. He realizes this when he finishes the entire bottle, but can't do anything about it because Kiria arrives, inviting them to a haunted house. Due to the potion's effects, the protagonist acts like a child and becomes very excited about going to that place. Subconsciously, he notices that his attitude is much more carefree. As expected, he gets scared in the haunted house, but on the way out, he bumps into Minoru, to whom he explains everything that has been happening and the side effects of her potion. She clarifies that what he drank was not some strange experiment, but just colored water that she put into bottles to pretend to be a witch. It's at this moment that the protagonist realizes that he acted that way because he wanted to, not because of the effects of something. Anyway, back at Atina's cafe, business is going quite well since most customers are who enjoy being stepped on by Sutie in her tsundere mode. Days after the disaster that was the university festival, Kiriya receives a call from her parents informing her that she will be in charge of organizing the family's Christmas celebration this year. She explains that they usually have a party together, but this time they are too busy to organize it, so she has to do it all by herself. However, the protagonist and Athena offer to help her with the shopping and other tasks to alleviate her workload. Everything goes well until later when Koshi is cleaning the house and accidentally enters the bathroom without realizing that Athena is using it. She has a hemorrhage, so she won't be able to join them at the party as she feels quite weak after losing so much blood. Now everything is in the hands of the protagonist and Kiriya, but not before Minoru teases them that it looks more like a date than anything else. The waifu gets very nervous upon hearing this, to the point of being distracted all day because they literally seem like a couple on a date, strolling through the shops and buying things together. But the moment is interrupted when they are having a coffee and Kiriya overhears some girls saying that they look cute together as siblings. Surprisingly, this depresses her a little because she had developed feelings for our protagonist. Later, they go to the last store where Koshi sees a Santa suit that could work, but Kiriya prefers to buy something more masculine as she believes it suits her image better. The protagonist disagrees, indirectly telling her that something feminine suits her much better and would make her look prettier. Initially embarrassed because it's the first time someone has said something like this to her, they return home and ask Free for help with Kariya's cosplay. In the end, he ends up making 3 costumes, a reindeer for the protagonist and 2 Santa outfits for Kiriya and Athena, who apparently starts feeling a bit better. However, the hemorrhage occurs again and Athena ends up sick in her bed. Fortunately, Serene appears and offers to help them with the party. Finally, they arrive at Kiriya's family home, which is a huge dojo since her brothers and their friends practice martial arts there. After training, the 3 change into their costumes, the protagonist as a reindeer while the girls wear their short Santa outfits, officially starting a Christmas party. Kiriya takes a moment with Koshi to ask him how she looks in her cosplay, to which he replies that she looks very cute, creating a somewhat uncomfortable yet beautiful situation for both of them. Anyway, the party is a great success. The protagonist is the reindeer all night, the girls look amazing, and the children enjoy the Christmas celebration. Koshi ends up tired after all the excitement, so he goes outside to get some fresh air in the yard. Kiriya follows him to thank him for all his help, and he also congratulates her for her efforts. The situation becomes a little heated, but Serene arrives and interrupts them just as they are about to kiss. And back at home, the girls bought a kotatsu, which is basically a warm table for the winter. The protagonist gets really excited because it's the first time he's going to try one. Things were going well, except for the fact that they start bothering him with their feet, which makes Koshi quite uncomfortable. Despite that, he feels quite happy because from not having a home or a family, he now lives with 5 beautiful women who, although quite have a good heart towards our young man. The next day after classes, the protagonist invites Sutie to his room so they can do their homework together and try out the new kotatsu they have. This obviously angers the tsundere, as we remember that she cannot stay in warm places for too long, otherwise she would faint. However, because she wants to be close to her guy, she accepts and they end up falling asleep in the room, thanks to how comfortable the kotatsu is. When Sutie wakes up, she realizes that Koshi unintentionally touched her leg, which initially makes her blush. However, being the good tsundere she is, she causes a commotion and destroys the table. The others return to the residence, where they have a nice moment among friends, while the protagonist now fears kotatsus and all the misunderstandings that could happen there. Days go by, and it's our young man's turn to clean the rooms, but he encounters a problem. Serene locked her room. Athena tries to help him without much success. For some unknown reason, Sutie was also there, but she couldn't do anything either. Unable to open it, they decide to go to Frey's room, which was simply very messy. Then they go to Minoru's room, where they discover a giant laboratory inside the house. After cleaning, they return to Serene's room, who, for some reason, was guarding the entrance as she didn't want anyone to enter that place. Athena solves the problem by giving her food, and together they manage to open the door, only to find out that it looks more like a junkyard than a living space. However, she insists that nothing be thrown away there because she was the first girl to arrive at the dormitory, and all those things are important because they are a vivid reminder of how her life became more enjoyable thanks to the 5 of them. They understand what Serene wanted to say, so they just tidy up the room a bit and rearrange the objects so that it doesn't look like a dump. As they leave, they see that the other girls took another one of Minoru's experiments, which made them creating an impulse to hug the protagonist and feel his affection. But they forgot that Sugie was also there, triggering her tsundere mode and giving Koshi a beating for being a womanizer, a time when the girls leave the dormitory to visit their families just like Kiriya did on Christmas. But this time is different because they decide to stay with the protagonist and have a party at the residence to celebrate the holiday. Minoru asks Athena to go with Koshi to buy what they need, but she refuses, lying that she's busy with other things. However, the truth is that she's knitting woolen gloves for our young man as a gift and wants to finish them before the year ends. ends. Kariya offers to accompany him to the supermarket, where they buy all the food for the party, until suddenly the protagonist starts feeling a bit sick to the point of fainting from fever. Kariya takes him back to the dormitory, but the girls aren't really good at taking care of someone, and instead of helping him, they end up causing more problems. Conveniently, Sutia arrives at the residence, and for the first time in the anime, we see her genuinely concerned without her tsumir facade, making it clear to Koshi that she doesn't want to lose him again. We see that Sutia has much more experience in taking care of illnesses than the others, so she tries to take care of him until she starts running a fever from getting too close to the protagonist and ends up fainting due to her own illness. Seeing this, the girls try to help him again, but Frey won't let him sleep with her in her seniorist outfit, while Kariya gives him a strange game that looks more like poison than a remedy. From this point on, things get out of control as the waifus become quite clumsy due to their worry. Athena stops them, switching to serious mode, and makes it clear that only she will take care of the protagonist because although the others have no ill intentions, they don't know how to handle things calmly and get too nervous when it comes to our young man. She stays with Koshi all night, taking the opportunity to be honest with him and express her feelings, thanking him for making her life happier. The next day, they wake up together, but most importantly, the protagonist feels like new. Koshi starts working since he neglected his duties in the dormitory, and now everything must be a mess. Athena gives him the gloves she knitted during these days, and he feels happy to receive something so meaningful from the girl he likes. Finally, Koshi invites her to buy the food for the party since they couldn't do it yesterday when he fainted. She happily accepts his invitation until the others join them to say that they will also accompany him. At this point, his harem gathers around him, and he realizes that he now has a new family, a new life, and above all, genuine feelings for people who are truly worth it.